Planning Board meeting. First matter on the agenda this evening is for the acceptance of the minutes of June 6, 2011. Any of the board members have any corrections or anything to be added to those minutes for June 6th?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to accept the minutes of June 6, 2011 as presented.
Motion's made.
Second.
And second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes yes. Any opposition? Hearing none, those minutes are approved. Next matter would be the minutes for June 20th, 2011. Any comments or anything to be edited?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the minutes of June 20th.
I'll second.
Motion made in second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes yes. Any opposition? Hearing none, those matters that for the minutes on 6/20/2011 have been approved. Moving along, we have a public hearing for a site plan review, 301 Chelmsford Street. The Lowell Planning Board will hear a public hearing to hear all interested persons relative to an application by R.T.J. Realty, LLC, for site plan review for project located at the above address. The proposal includes the construction of 2,232 square foot, one-story retail convenience store. The site plan will indicate a parking layout to serve the proposed use, along with landscape areas and plantings to assist with parking requirements and stormwater impacts. The applicant is seeking site plan review under section 11.4 of the City of Lowell zoning code. The parcel is located in the Neighborhood Business Zoning District and covers 12,345 square feet. May we hear the case for the applicant, please?
Mr. Chairman, board members, good evening. George Theolides Jr., 133 Market Street, Lowell. And I'm here this evening in behalf of RTJ Realty, the applicant in this matter. This is really just I guess I could say a simple project, I think, but it's been a long time in the making because a long time, and by the way, that's Mr. Carews back there, the owner, and Hal Chuba, who's his architect engineer. Mr. Carews acquired this property over a couple of years ago. He owns the property, as you're looking at this property, on the right-hand side, which is the Queen Pizza building, and on the left-hand side, he leases the gas station that's adjacent to it. He then acquired this parcel in the middle and did so with the intention of building a very nice convenience store with maybe some offices up above. In the meantime, he went forward with that plan, and it appeared, he appeared at the zoning board because they needed a couple of variances. This is years ago now, a couple of years ago. And there was some neighborhood opposition because some of the folks who live in back up on the hill there off Liberty were concerned about the height of the building and their view onto Lincoln and the park and the school. So Johnny withdrew his application at that time to go back and refigure and try to accommodate the neighbors' concerns. In the meantime, when he finally came up with a new set of plans, and I don't want to belabor this, but I think the history is important, he went to the building department and was set to go, except he was told now that the one little parcel that you see in the back, the weird little almost octagon parcel up to the left of this, was not zoned properly for this particular project. It was still in the residential zone. So at that time, Mr. Camacho, the then building commissioner, said to him, just go and get that changed, and then I think you're all set from there. So, in fact, he then started the process to go and get a zoning change, and it's at that point when I came on board to help him out because his prior lawyer was on vacation at the time. But anyway, we went to the city council, we showed them the whole plan for the whole area, and how he hoped to fix the three properties. And then when it came time to bring the whole thing, and it passed, the council absolutely endorsed it and passed the zoning change. When it came time to start the project again, he went back with a nice plan, single-story building, et cetera. And unfortunately, there was a disagreement over whether or not, when he tore down, I forgot to mention that he tore down, if you all recall, that ugly set of garages that are on the back side of the property there. When he tore them down and got rid of that blight, he did so with the building commission, the then building commissioner's approval that he would be able to build off of that pre-existing non-conforming structure. I don't want to get into a lot about that. It wasn't anything that that folks were happy with, so he changed his plans yet again. And the plan, as you see now, comes out with a building that's more perpendicular, I'll say, to the lot. It accommodates the city's desire to bring the building up to the sidewalk because it's a neighborhood structure and going to be a convenience store with neighborhood affinity and neighborhood clientele, and at the same time providing parking for the transients that might be coming to visit the place as well. Technically, he's only required to have probably 4 spaces. I think by submission says 3, but we weren't sure of the size of the building at that time. It got readjusted. Technically only required, in my opinion, I say my opinion, 4 spaces. The issue came up to whether or not we should be providing parking spaces for Queen's Pizza. Well, you know what? Queen's Pizza has no parking spaces. But in order to accommodate and make everybody happy, my client said, okay, I will put the extra spaces up there. And I think in total, I'm not sure how many spaces, but we have certainly many more than we need, especially with the addition, as you know, I submitted to you this evening based on comments from various city department heads. I submitted a plan and we've added 4 spaces to what is like the front of the building. We wanted to keep people away from there because on the one hand, it's technically a right-of-way for the spots in the back, but the right-of-way runs to my client, so he can use and do whatever he wants to as far as the right-of-way is concerned. So he's not interfering with his own, it's all part of the process and the usage of the lot. So we think it's a great plan. You see sort of a rendering of, or a drawing of what we think the plan is going to be. We think it's a huge plus. And by the way, we're also hopeful that folks at the garage, the gas station, might wander over there to buy something while they're buying gas as well. And so we've in our own way trying to provide for that, and at the same time being mindful of safety. So we think it's a great project. It's been a long time coming. I'm going to let Mr. Chuba go over the technical details with you. Hal Chuba, if he can come up, as the gentleman who's been doing principally all the planning work, and I think he's prepared to, do we have the microphone that I think Hal...
He said the battery one wasn't working, so you should have to use one of the counselors' one, just push the button? Right.
Okay. Good evening. For the record, my name is Hal Chuba. I'm the principal engineer at Chuba Engineering. We're consulting engineers and located at 112 State Street in Dartmouth, Massachusetts. As Attorney Elias indicated here, this process has been going on for almost 5 years. I had so many layouts and building elevations and landscape plans that I can't think, this is... But to give you a quick history on the project, the applicant owns the lot where there's 2 existing buildings on, and what's remaining now is the foundation of the two existing buildings that were removed approximately in 2010. The two structures that there, you can see with the bold black lines, the total square footage of those two buildings, it's almost 3,600 square feet. The whole lot is paved, and it's this lot was previously developed, so it's not. It was at one time the two buildings were used for storage or garages, whatever uses. They're not there anymore. The entire, as I indicated, the entire lot is covered with impervious surfaces, and including buildings, sidewalks, and paved parking. Access to the site is through Chelmsford Street, and to the north of the site is Liberty. As you see, there's also one small curb cut on Liberty Street that we propose to close with this proposal to make the traffic circulation safer. With this proposal, my client will remove the foundation and move the building closer to the sidewalk in compliance with the zoning bylaws. The new building would be 2,200 square feet, which is still smaller than the long skinny building that existed before on site. With this layout, we propose to provide a curb cut to the north of the new building between the pizza place and the building. We also propose to provide 15 parking spaces. I believe the original application that you have showed 11 parking spaces. Now the revised plan that you have, we have added 4 parking spaces to the south of the building. 15 parking spaces in excess of what the zoning bylaws require. Also, with this proposal, we will remove approximately 900 square feet of impervious area and replace it with landscape. We've been working with the planning office on this layout and the parking and the type of trees maybe that we need to, we can tweak this later on too if we need to. We'll work closely with planning on the type of trees that we need to plant. Also on this layout, we've shown a 5-foot crushed stone to the north of this piece of land that was previously residential, and that we can use for snow remove, snow storage if we need to. I think this was one of the comments that came up. Also with this proposal, we are gonna collect the runoff from the roof of the proposed building, which is approximately 2,300 square feet, and put it in an infiltration system on site. So this way we can reduce the runoff from the site to Chelmsford Street. By doing this, and also by changing the 900 square feet of previously paved surfaces to landscape, we were able to reduce the runoff by 30%. State guidelines call for 20% for redevelopment of properties. I think we're in excess of that, and I think that the city engineer agrees with that, and we had some comments. Basically, this is the proposal. The structure is more like a residential structure that would fit within the neighborhood, because there's a lot of residents in the back of the store, so it's not like a metal building or something with a flat roof, or it's got an A-frame roof, nice architectural shingles and clapboard, and a lot of glass facing Chelmsford and the street. That's the elevation of the building. The height of the building would be somewhere around 18 feet and 18 and a half feet. It's 1-story building. And I have more elevations in the back and a quick floor layout. I guess that's the elevation. We did receive some comments from traffic and engineering and planning, but we believe that the comments are simple. We can accommodate what the concerns are, and and we hope to get your blessing or approval on this project. Thank you.
I guess for now, Mr. Chairman, that's our presentation, but Hal and I, as well as
Ready-
Mr. K.
We're ready to answer any questions. Is that right?
Yeah, we're more than willing to answer any questions after you've heard from any of the rest of the folks in the hearing, and we
Okay,
thank
while I
you.
have him there, can I just have him, if he could address the issues that were presented to us by Mr. Clausen, the 1, 2, 3, 4 issues that he have? One being the parking spot, that the setback on the right part of the plan, that the car and number parking spot 2 doesn't meet the setback requirement.
Right, that was, I believe, because Mr.
Down on your
Clausen
right-hand
did-
side, off Liberty Street.
of,
Liberty Street,
Oh, yeah.
yep, on Liberty Street.
right.
Parking
I'm
space
not
2.
sure, Liberty Street, I think what we have, we do have the required setback, right, Aaron?
Looks like the front of that car is in the setback requirement. I just said, you know, you went along with some of the board's requirements, so I just want to know if you could explain that to us, please.
Sure, the parking area that I was referencing in that comment is actually the I guess, octagonal portion that's up behind the residential properties that are both on Liberty and Hutchinson. So it's that one that's up behind everything else in the northwest portion of the building. There was, the parking spaces were about a foot off
Oh.
of the parcel boundary, the other one on the other side. The plans I just saw before the meeting, it looks like the parking spaces were moved south to be at least a 5-foot setback, 5 feet from that boundary.
Okay, that was one of the questions I had.
That's
Okay.
the area that Mr. Chua referred to having crushed stone in its place now.
Right,
Right.
I thought the crushed stone was up by the residential parking lot.
right. So we didn't,
That's the one I was trying to describe. in
okay.
the- Yeah.
Okay, I got you, yeah, okay, all right. Well, what about me? Okay, all right, okay, all right, thank you. Okay. Do you have anything else to add? If not, we'll listen to hear the other people as well. Anything else you want to add at this time, sir? No? Does anybody else want to speak on behalf of the applicant?
No, we're all set. We'll be ready to answer any other questions after you complete the comment portion from the
Okay,
public.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone here want to speak in favor of the project for 301 Chelmsford Street?
Excuse me. Mr. Chairman, members of the planning board, for the record, my name is Mark Goldman, 58 Oakland Street, Lowell, Mass. I'm familiar with that area, having walked that area many times, and I'm in favor of this. This is a win-win situation for the city. It'll increase the tax base, and it is with the neighborhood character of the neighborhood. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Goldman. Anyone else like to speak in favor of the project? In favor? In favor? Hearing none, that portion, public hearing is closed. Anybody like to speak in opposition? In opposition? In opposition? Hearing none, that portion, public hearing is closed. At this point in time, do any of the board members have any questions, comments? Hey, Mr. Lockhart?
I know you got a very difficult lot here to work with. I'm just a little concerned about the traffic circulation within. You have, on this latest rendition, arrows going up or around to the left of the building. And I think I'm reading this as a 15-foot width in that drive. Is that two-way traffic in there? It's gotta be, right? Pardon me?
And there'll be a sign as
That's a
has been
one-way
requested.
traffic.
Over the internal circulation.
Right,
I mean,
and-
maybe I'm not looking at it.
no,
right.
it's a one-way traffic, and we'll be adding a sign to the south of the building, do not enter sign, as suggested by the traffic engineer. I mean, that's one of the comments. And normally what we do too, we can add some pavement marking too on to say one-way, do not enter, but it's just, it's a one-way. And the proper signage will be added to the plan. as suggested.
It's all one way.
All one way, correct.
So how do cars that are parked down to the left of the building get out of the,
To the left of this here?
yeah?
Oh, this is all open. This is all
All
open. They
open
have
to
to,
the
yes.
left. Oh, I'm, all
Right,
right.
this is all open. That's the gas station.
Okay, so there's room there that
Right,
I can't
right.
see. All right, okay. I'm okay with that then. Dumpster access, in fact, was brought up by,
Right,
I think the health department, a comment that they made.
right.
You're showing parking right there.
Right.
What's your plan?
We've done that previously. Dumpster is picked up by schedule. You can schedule that. So either you could do it early in the morning where nobody's at the site, or later late afternoon. Or in this case, because we have showed 11 parking spaces before, and now we added 4 more parking spaces. My suggestion was, I talked to Aaron too, we'd be glad to eliminate a couple of parking spaces. Since we have 15 parking spaces, and if we have over what's required, we can eliminate a couple of parking spaces and leave the
So
dumpster.
you can work around that.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
All right, fine. Just one other question relative to a comment we received from the wastewater utility.
Right,
This is dated August 4th. And his comment is, it appears that there is no on-site drainage.
right.
You familiar with that comment?
Yeah,
Have you talked to them and worked with them? And
oh, absolutely. I think they looked at the site, they didn't see any catch basins. Maybe this is what they figured, there's no, but basically what we did, if you look at the plans, it says connect roof drain to infiltration area. We're picking up all the roof drain from the building, and we're gonna take it to an infiltration system. And
I can see that.
I think the city engineer didn't have any issue with that,
No, she
so.
didn't say anything. All right, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Lockhart. Mr. Fischett?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just back to what Mr. Lockhart was inquiring relative to the circulation of the site. I just still have some questions regarding the parking in the rear.
Right here?
Exactly.
Right.
Where exactly is the right-of-way? Where exactly is the
Okay,
property line?
this is the right-of-way. This
Okay.
is the right-of-way. The right-of-way is an odd shape. This is the right-of-way. This lot is the right-of-way. So this is basically, that's the right-of-way. But between the property line and the curb, I have 20 feet here, and so that's,
Okay, so, I'm sorry, just bear with me here just a moment, because right now when you go there, the whole site is just open, so I'm just
Right,
trying
I
to get a feel
understand,
for.
right.
Yeah, you can't really see that.
yeah.
So where is the property line here? Right?
This is the property line.
That's the property line?
Right.
Okay, so then the right-of-way,
This is this portion. I don't have my scale. I might have a scale. I think this is 35 feet, and this is about.
It is.
So this is 10 feet here. This is 10 feet of.
For access
of
to
the
the
right
back.
of way. For access.
that's a deeded right-of-way that, okay.
Correct.
Correct.
So, but you have 20 feet from this corner to this to access this, which is plenty.
Okay, and then the one-way then would be
15
one-way
feet.
exit. Now, would you be able to, on the
No,
left
you'll
side of
exit.
the building?
You'll exit through the right of way.
Okay, but you'll exit through the right-of-way. Now, on the left side of the building, on Chelmsford Street,
Yeah.
would you be able to enter that side, or is it just an exit?
No, you can enter here. Making this might be tough without going over this property, but you can enter through here because this is 35 feet.
Okay, so you'll enter there, but you'll have a one-way coming out of the
Out.
rear parking.
Right.
All right, so the one-way will begin on the right-hand corner of the rear of the building.
Right.
And then exiting, the one-way will end basically where the right-of-way is.
Yeah, absolutely. Or here. But we'll put the signs to this corner because this is the physical place where we can place a sign. And also we can put some pavement marking here too, to say do not, on the pavement facing the driver, to say one way, do not enter.
Right,
So,
right, yeah, because I could see some potential, I mean, luckily, the way it's configured, I can't imagine somebody going through there at a high rate of speed, but I can see that
right.
being a little confusing.
Yeah. We'll be glad to add the signage.
I
and the
need to
pavement
comment
marking.
on that, if I can.
Sure.
You know, we originally planned this building against the back wall, and there wouldn't have been any issues of that kind of circulation. People would have, just as you do normally. But in order to accommodate the city's wishes that we move the building up there, they also indicated that it would be helpful to have a wider space in the back to have that circulation. And it was in concert, correct me if I'm wrong, Aaron, with the Department of Planning and Development that we developed that particular scheme.
I just could see someone thinking that, as they're exiting, thinking that that whole strip is a right-of-way, I mean, a one-way exiting, and then cars are coming in to that side. So I'm just,
Yeah, no, I understand.
you understand
but-
what the,
but what we thought too, this is gonna be mostly for the residents that they live here too. Because
so
most,
residential parking, yep.
yeah, so somebody who's familiar with the site, they know what the, you know, once you have the signage and you know you can't enter through here, this is a one-way and,
Right.
so.
So where would you be looking to put the one-way sign on the, where are you looking for the placement of the one-way signs on the site?
I'll put it here on this building against this corner to the south, facing the driver, so they don't do this way, you know.
And on
I
the
can put
right-hand
an arrow
side so
here,
that nobody
too.
goes in either, obviously.
But
On
we
the
can-
right-hand side of the building so that no one's going in that way.
Right.
Against the one-way.
Right. Right, because well, because you're gonna be a two-way on the,
On this side.
on that side and on the right-hand side until you get to the rear of the building. So it's just that strip in the middle.
Right.
In the back, that connects
Right.
the two.
But I think with the signage here, we can put another sign here too.
Sure.
Facing the driver.
Sure.
One sign here, one sign, and maybe we'll put the pavement markings too. Do not enter, one way, you know, so.
Now, is there any plan to define, well, I don't even know what you're allowed to do under the right-of-way, but you have that large parking lot from the gas station. I'm assuming that's just going to be all open then on the left-hand side. Is that,
Correct. I think it's striped, this right here, you have the underground fuel tanks on this side where they have few parking spaces, but they're all striped, so.
I think, Hal, we talked about paint markings that would delineate the...
Right,
the
I
different-
think there's some existing right now. that-
just to help,
Didn't
because I
get
could see
added.
people coming in at an angle, they still will anyways, but I mean, at least if it was marked.
But
to,
certainly you have to keep this open, so you can't park here, you know.
Yeah, no, I understand.
So,
Yeah, but even if we had some markings, pavement markings on that define the right-of-way.
Yeah.
The right-of-way.
Yeah.
I mean, again, you're still gonna have cars coming across there, but I think it's just, right now, it's just.
It is a suggestion we discussed, it never got on there, but
Sure.
I certainly would agree to that as an additional, I think,
Absolutely.
Hal and
well, we
and,
can work
Johnny
with
would.
Aaron on this, you know, we'll send a
Right.
revised plan with the pavement markings or something, you know.
I think it'll just help with the circulation, the guide,
Absolutely, yeah.
the
My
traffic too.
recollection when we dealt with that issue at Target, for example, was we changed the color of the pavement just to delineate and show clearly that it's a walking area.
Sure.
And I'm sure we can do that here.
Sure, exactly, that's exactly what I'm getting at, okay. Other than that, I mean, that's the biggest challenge with the site. I mean, I think you're trying to meet the spirit of the neighborhood business district, which can appreciate that, and most of the businesses prior to that site are all right along the road, and obviously you're adding some parking that doesn't exist at the moment. And right now, the site is really a kind of a free-for-all when you drive onto it, so this will add some structure to it. So that's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
It's interesting, if I can comment, Mr. Chairman, about what you said about the site itself, the lot itself. You know, I've been practicing many years and dealing with zoning cases and whatever, and Attorney Claremont can identify with this as much as the issue of a lot that's so unusual in shape and configuration and whatever, that it lends itself to being treated for variance purposes. I mean, I think this is as weird a lot as I've seen, so, but I think they've done a great job of accommodating the parking and the flow. I'm beginning to wonder why I'm always with a fire engine one. But anyway, I'm sorry, continue. I just wanted to build on what Mr. Frechette said.
Mr. Chairman?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I think Mr. Lockhart, Mr. Frechette both touched on the primary issues. I was just curious, how close is the building, the gas station, to that lot line? Is there ample room in the right-of-way to get around the building? Is that any issue?
The gas station?
Yeah. Because you're taking a right-of-way on the gas station property.
Yeah, it's at least 75 feet, I would say. Way over.
Okay, so that's not an issue.
Not even close.
Okay. And it looks like there is going to be still a sidewalk, a wide sidewalk in the front part of the building.
Absolutely.
Does that sidewalk continue down in front of the gas station?
You know, I think it does. Aaron, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, it's there. It's a little hard to tell that it's there because it's pretty much wide open curb, but it's there.
I'm wondering if there's any, since we're going to the trouble to make this more neighborhood friendly, forcing the building to the front, and I can understand the logic of that. I wonder if it would make sense and if you would be willing to try to do something to delineate that sidewalk, the length of the properties down to the corner, so that there's walking room there.
The length of our property, yes. You
I was-
asking for the gas station too?
Yeah.
Gosh, I mean, you know, the problem with that, if I could, first of all, I'll go back and say, we wanted at one point to
Yeah, I
deal
know,
with the whole
I know.
site. I'm just fearful of the cost of the curbing and everything else that would go along with that. I don't know what my client's feelings on that would be. I mean, it's a wonderful idea, but he's spending an awful lot of money here. On the other hand, I don't know that we couldn't maybe work something out with the city. I would ask Aaron to talk to the DPD for, he's giving me that, we don't have any money eyes, look there. It's just,
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. It's just that we're going to a lot of trouble on this lot to make it neighborhood friendly, and the cars are going to be coming across on the right-of-way on that property. Would almost seem to me to make sense that rather than having free-flowing traffic in and out of the parking lot and in and out of the gas station, and since the applicant does happen to own both properties,
Yeah,
maybe
no-
there's something we could do to
well,
work out to control the
let me
flow,
clarify,
pedestrian flow.
we don't own the gas
Oh,
station.
okay, I'm sorry.
So we'd have to go back to,
So, okay, what's the
Yes,
relationship
or-
with the gas station then?
we're leasing it,
Oh, you're leasing the property from
Right.
somebody else?
so we gotta go to the big
So the
energy company and ask them what
Okay.
we can do or can't do.
Okay.
And that's not gonna be very easy.
So, does your applicant operate the gas station?
Yes, he operates
Okay,
it,
he
yes.
operates the gas station,
Right.
leases
Under
leases
lease,
the land.
which is a limited period of time, of course.
I see. Yeah, I can see where that would be problematic, and it's not really germane, except for the fact that you are accessing the right-of-way on that property, and my concern would be pedestrian traffic. Now that we're creating a pedestrian channel here,
I know
by
Mr.
design.
Carews well enough that he cares about this area, and I'm sure to the extent he might be able to do something with the gas station, no promises, no conditions.
the sidewalk is really city property, though, right?
Well, yes, except we don't have the right to go beyond that with, I mean, we'd have to work, for example, on the gas station property, and
Mm-hmm.
that would require their permit as well.
Right. Aaron, what do you think? Do you think there's some synergy where the city could work with the developer in this property to try to just more delineate that sidewalk so that it's, you know, now that we're creating this channel, this kind of neighborhood walking channel, let's continue it to the corner.
Yeah, we can certainly continue to work with the applicant. I think it's been a pretty cooperative effort thus far. As far as repaving the sidewalk or anything.
I was gonna
in the near
suggest
future,
maybe
I'm not sure that
crosswalk.
we have that in the capital plan right now, but we can explore what options there are to kind of improve that pedestrian interface.
Glad to
Is
hear
there,
it.
is there curb there now on the sidewalk in front of the gas station?
There's sections of curb, I think it shows on the plan, there's stretches of about 5, maybe 8 legs of curb.
Not a lot.
It's,
Not a lot.
most of the curbing is depressed too, because I
Correct.
think with the time they were driving over it, that, you know, so, but maybe we can delineate 5 feet with the cross hatch or something, like a crosswalk or something, so you know this is for pedestrians and not, because it is wide, and it's all same color, that's the problem, it's all bituminous, you know, like, it's not like a 5 feet of concrete and then the whole lot, and it's all the same grade, so you can't really, you don't know, but maybe something, extend the crosswalk maybe past this, you know.
Okay, so, I mean, I think the project makes sense, and if you can just work with the city to try and do what you can with the limited funds available on both sides to delineate that sidewalk to the corner, that would be appreciated.
Agree. It's in everybody's best
Yep.
interest.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Claremont?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I like the project. I do have some questions about the setup of the lots. The Queen's Pizza lot, that lot is separate from the lot that we're developing now, correct?
It is, in my opinion. There are some people who think it isn't.
Okay.
There are some people who are trying to impose a merger on this, and I don't believe that this is in fact a merger case. But I don't want to get into that argument, if you know what I mean.
All right. It was one lot at one point, am I correct? And then
There's still 2 separate lots as far as I'm concerned.
when your client bought the Queen Pizza building, he bought just that lot, correct?
Correct.
And the parking lot, I guess, was used by probably Pizza and
I
whomever
was
else.
there this afternoon, and there were 3 people picking up their pizza to go using that lot. Yes, absolutely.
But that separate lot that holds Queen's Pizza, and there are apartments up above, correct?
The Queen's Pizza lot has no parking whatsoever currently.
So there's no parking for Queen's Pizza or the residential lots, residential apartments above
Correct.
Queen's Pizza?
And we're now providing it for the first time, which I think is a big plus to this project.
Okay. So the lot that's upper left, that it's marked residential parking lot only, is that going to be isolated for the apartments that are owned by your client?
Well, initially we were, and then, when I say we were thinking of it in those terms. However, in order to react to snow issues, things like that, we just decided to make it more flexible. And what we're going to do is, as you know, I mean, after about 10 or 11 o'clock at night, that area will be empty, and I assume people who live in the Queen's Pizza building will snatch a space there, but we're not going to definitely mark off spaces for them. I can't, if you, and you would appreciate this, I can't make that a condition or part of something like that, because then how does my client sell the Queen's Pizza building if...
Well, that was going to be my concern. I
Right,
mean,
right.
this appeared to be marked residential
Right.
parking lot only.
Let me, okay. I think when this came from, when we, previously, I think this was a drafting. I'll tell you why, because originally, when we submitted different plans to the building department, because that portion of the lot was zoned residential, urban residential. You couldn't park in that. That's why we said that was only for the residential. But from a practical point of view, I think we will assign this more for the residents, because it's not convenient for somebody to park if they come into the convenience store to park there and walk. But we will need to take that note out, I think, because it doesn't matter. Right now, this is all neighborhood business, and we can do that. But in practicality, maybe it's better, we can tell people park there at night or after business hours because, you free the parking lot for the store.
Right, right. As I said, I guess my concern will be, if they are separate lots and Queen's Pizza and the 6 apartments above have no parking, what happens at the point that you want to sell that? You no longer have the ability to park in these spaces that we're designating around this new proposal. I think there's sufficient parking with what you have here if the parcels remain together, but I just see a problem down the road if you tried to sell this parcel by itself with no parking whatsoever for 6 apartments and the pizza shop. So that's a concern, I think, overall. As far as the right-of-way, I know you had mentioned that right-of-way services only your lot and the parking spaces that are behind there where there used to be a garage that was knocked down. Who owns the fee in that right-of-way, do you know?
Whoever owns the gasoline station.
Okay, so the gas station owns that property, and there's an existing right-of-way to access that property behind there.
And it appears to me, Attorney Claremont, in perpetuity, there is no limitation on it.
Okay, all right. And as long as you're leasing the gas station, I don't think there's an issue, but, I mean, thinking, in theory, if the gas station were owned by somebody else and they decide to put a fence there, that could make it a difficult entrance and egress for your lot. So I'm wondering if you might consider making the right side of that building off Chelmsford Street, entrance only, and the other side exit only, so you'd have a traffic pattern that would flow in one side and out the other. You don't have a lot of room there between your lot and the gas station. As I said, it's probably not an issue now because it is wide open, but it's also not owned by your client, so that could be a potential problem somewhere down the road. I'm wondering if it might be a better traffic pattern to have it a one-way entrance around the building, one-way out. This way we don't have the concern on the right-of-way with people coming in to access those spots and the parking area behind there coming out those same spots. We would have just the one-way traffic flow around the building.
I'll check with my guy. I guess my sense would be that if the DPD and the traffic engineers and everybody think that that's more appropriate, I don't see a problem reversing that, but,
It would seem to be a better flow, and there'd be less of an issue on the right-of-way portion, especially if there are cars parked there. We don't have a lot of area to go two-way traffic in that area, so I think it would be a better traffic pattern if we did it that way. The dumpsters, there's going to be 3 dumpsters
correct.
servicing that. You need 3 dumpsters? Are those to service the pizza shop and the convenience store? So at this point, you've got a dumpster servicing the pizza shop on another lot. So if you sold the pizza shop, where's their dumpster? So you got some issues with that. Has the fire department reviewed this plan? I didn't see a sign-off from them.
I
Aaron, do you
believe
know?
there's a sign-off, but maybe I missed it.
That's right.
Aaron,
Police, I've seen the police sign
I
up.
do believe one came in last week.
by code, of course, it's 2 sides of the building, and easily they can get to 2 sides of the building, so it certainly shouldn't be a problem for them. It's not like, and it's a single-story building on top of it all, so I can't imagine, but I thought there was a no comment, no problem, but
Yeah, I may be thinking of another one. I don't see a comment yet, as of yet.
All right, I think that's all the questions I had. I think the comments from the engineer were fairly standard comments that are probably pertinent to most sites, and you don't have an issue with any of the comments that she made.
the only relevant that isn't along the standard line that I saw that I think we're going to address is that ramp at Queen's Pizza, and Hal tells me he can turn that around easily so that it's not forcing people to come down and then into the parking lot. He'll do it straight down towards the sidewalk. So we'll adopt that particular change there. that suggested.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. I don't know if any of my colleagues have a comment about changing the traffic pattern a bit to go.
I do have one comment. I think that's a great idea. I think it certainly would help the site. I think what we're missing there is you're showing the 4 new parking spots to the left of the building and not enough to the left of that. So we can't really tell by looking at that how much space you have there for traffic flow. It's very difficult to visualize.
It's a huge amount of space.
The right-of-way is 35 feet and 16,
I mean, you can recite the numbers, excuse me, but you can't see it clearly because of the drawing. I'm sure your numbers are correct, but it would be nice to see it on a drawing.
Okay.
And if we could see that, we could better visualize the traffic flow.
Right.
And if we could change it to one, one entrance in and one entrance out and flow the traffic in one direction, it would certainly greatly improve the traffic flow and the safety on the site.
And it's 35 feet, but 20 feet of that is parking space. So there's 15 feet left for entrance and egress.
Yeah, so you
So-
can't picture it the way you have it drawn.
18,
I don't know if I have the zoning plan showed the whole thing. There's got to be at least another 50 feet beyond that. There's just nothing but hot top. Now, I can't say to you that we can freely let people pass and repass there. As you know, it's someone else's property technically. But to think that there's any kind of interference there, unless all of a sudden the gas station people mandate my client put up a wall or something like that, which this board would have to review if they tried to do something like that anyway.
and that's why the original plan didn't show any parking in that area, because we're trying to demonstrate that we can meet the required parking for zoning bylaws and still circulate around the site, so.
I think you need the parking because clearly the Queen's Pizza and the residential people are going to use that lot. So I think you need as much parking as you can get in there, so I wouldn't want to eliminate any spaces.
Right, but I mean, now you're talking 15 parking spaces, so it's not, I think by taking advantage of this piece here, because right now, at one time, we couldn't use it by law because it was zoned residential, so now
As
you
I said, I
added another
don't
six.
have any issues with that. I think
Right.
that you've
No,
got
I don't
sufficient
think,
parking.
as an engineer, I don't think, you got the width, you got the site, it's not, if it's, I understand the issue between the building, and I said, we had a comment from the traffic engineer to add the sign. We don't have a problem, so I think we'll add 2 signs, to be honest, not one. I think I want to add a sign here and add a sign here. So you have 2 big signs that read, "Do not enter," and then had some, and I'm going to add some pavement markings right on the lane, big letters to say, "Do not enter one way." So I think if we do that, that should take care of that corner.
Well, they're not going to go out that way anyway. They're going to go out through the right-of-way. But
Right.
What I'm saying is that exit should be, in my opinion, exit only.
Just this part, just this portion. I thought you said right in, you're saying this entrance should be right in only too.
Yeah, I think that should be entrance only, and the other
But
side
why?
should be exit
If you're
only.
here, why do you want to force people to go around if you can get out this way? There's plenty, this is 24, that's more than what's required, right? For the 24 feet is plenty for 2-way traffic.
Well, I actually have less of an objection to that remaining two-way than the other open
That,
with the
we'll,
parking
we'll
lot.
then, okay, maybe, okay, we'll look at that probably.
This might help a little bit if you want me to pass it up there.
Sure,
It's-
because the question we're gonna have is, say if the gas station people put a fence on their property line,
Right.
Now,
so how much feet do we have now?
We don't need this.
Okay,
We
okay, I
we
know,
still,
but
no, how much
I-
feet we have?
okay,
We had 35 feet.
Okay, that's what I'm saying, because,
We have 35 feet, sir.
You
That's
can't
what I'm
drive
saying.
over the 35 feet. You got
No.
cars parked there. You got 15 feet to drive
and then the
over.
cars have to back out.
So what's the plan?
Those cars don't have to park there. The original plan that we showed, we didn't show the parking on that side. We had some comments from city officials
Yeah, but some
saying,
comments-
suggestion that we can add parking there, and I agree.
Comply
It's
with the necessary number of parking spaces without those
without
spaces.
going into that right away, and we had that in back of our minds, because yes, we don't want to go out of business if someone else bought the property and put a fence there. So we can provide the required parking spaces and still access the site and go around the building without having those parking spaces.
Well, I'll let him finish, I know that.
No, I was done. I mean, that's my opinion. I think that
No,
should
no,
be expedited.
I mean, maybe this is one way, is something that probably we can look at, but then you're forcing people to go around the building to park in this area, and I don't think you don't have, this is very tight to do this. It's much easier, you get people coming through here, that they're gonna park in
Driving
front of the
over
building.
someone else's lot, though. I mean, that from a planning standpoint is not really kosher.
But
Driving over
I
someone
don't
else's
disagree.
lot.
You know what?
if you have to,
If I
Jason,
may say so, I changed I said we need 4 spaces, we need 3 spaces. The building is 2,200 and it's 1 for every 900. My very simple answer to this project was go up against the back wall and put 3 spaces in the front, and then no one has to worry about anything. We've been trying to accommodate the city, who wants us to supply parking for the neighbors, et cetera. I understand what you're saying. I never liked the idea. I said to somebody, I wouldn't like my wife having to drive in the back of that building at nighttime to get in or get out of the place necessarily, but we're now trying to do the best we can to bring the building up to the front on the sidewalk. That's what we were asked to do. And I know what you're saying. We weren't putting parking spaces there in the first instance, but we were asked to consider more parking spaces. And I thought about it, and I said, you know what? The right-of-way runs to Johnny's benefit and his benefit only. There isn't anyone who can stop him. So if he wants to park on his own right-of-way, he has the right to park. Now, I'm not saying I don't agree with Mr. Guillermo, because I think it might be better to go that way, and that's why I said, why don't we let the traffic engineers, but you people are the ultimate arbiters. If you tell us that you want us to go that way, then we're gonna go that way. How's that?
I understand what you're saying about the 3 parking spaces to service the convenience store, but, I mean, looking at the site as a whole, we can't be unmindful of the fact that we have a pizza shop and 6 apartments, and the people are going to, owned by the same owner, the people are going to park there. So I think we need as much parking as we have in this lot. I wouldn't want 3 spaces, I wouldn't want 5 or 7. I think 15 is sufficient, but I think we have to make the traffic pattern work. I don't think that that's a huge change to make that exit only. Again, I'm monopolizing the time, I'll let my colleagues weigh in on that as well.
All right, Joe.
Did you receive the comments from the city engineer dated August 12th?
I did receive them while I was driving here this afternoon, but,
Okay. Could you show me where, where snow will be on site?
this 5-foot strip here,
So,
5 feet wide, all crushed
so when you
stone.
come in the front of your property to the right of your building, you're gonna plow it all the way to the
Yeah,
back,
you're gonna push
right,
everything to the
all the way
back.
up to there,
Right.
and 5 feet wide? So that plow is gonna push the snow up around your building, cut through your little area which says parking only, dragging all that snow, and push up to the top right-hand side
We have,
for all this impervious surface? Plus, everything that's up there where those 5 cars are now, all gonna fit on the 5-foot width for snow removal on the site of this size? Yes, no? I
yes.
don't know, I'm asking
No,
you.
yes, that's what we have some other areas that I talked to Aaron too.
Well, can you
that
talk
we-
to us about it? Because we're in the board and we vote on it,
Right.
so we have some comments, we'll let you
Absolutely.
address them, okay?
We have parking spaces that we all agree now, we're saying we need all the parking spaces. We didn't have the parking spaces before, now we have 15 parking spaces. We can eliminate a couple of parking spaces maybe here or or here and designate this area for snow storage.
Well, how much more room would you pick up? Because I really don't see you getting your plow to push all your snow back there. I don't see it at all.
If I have 10, 20, 40 by 40, 40 feet by 40 feet,
And where would you pick that up?
right in this corner for this portion, and then I'll leave the 5 by the entire
You'd
width.
take these 2 parking spots out,
Yeah,
okay? And if you take out those 2 spots, and then we did have a comment from our health department that had a problem with your parking in front of the dumpsters.
okay, we can move
So
the,
if we take those out, now you're taking less than 5 spots out.
Right.
And you can't put the snow removal in front of the dumpsters, right?
right. We can take some of the landscape areas out too, and put the
Well,
dumpsters
that was
on.
another question that Aaron had, going back to his, saying that he thought you needed more landscape material. He thought you were short, so he
No.
asked you to add to the front.
Right,
So you said you didn't have a problem with that, so I figured you were gonna put that there.
no, I think his comment was to provide more shade trees, if I remember, and we said, yes, we'll agree to that.
Okay. What
Right.
about from the city engineer that
Yes.
requests the access easement for the legal rights to pass and repass over the property to the south? That was on Mr. Mayo's request form as well. And she also indicated that she wants to see a snow removal plan, which was requested by myself, because I don't think you have enough snow removal on the site. But what about the access easement?
I'm not even sure what she's referring to, Mr. Chairman. Access to
I think
where
property
easement?
to the south must provide an access easement for the legal rights to pass and repass. Well, I know what a north arrow is, so the south would be by the street. I imagine it's the existing right of way.
I'm not sure what we need a right-of-way for.
Then it
We
says the
have a right-
driveway drains need to be installed to reduce the runoff to the street. Were you gonna put the driveway drains in?
We have the right to travel and pass and repass over the entire lot.
Well, the beginning of the presentation, he indicated you received comments and you're in favor of all the comments. So I'm asking a question about the comments that we got from the city engineer.
Right.
That you people said
Right.
you were in favor of all the comments by the city departments.
Right.
So now I'm asking those questions, and now I'm not sure what you're talking about.
Well, I
don't know what
believe
you mean
if-
by the snow plan. I don't know what you mean about removing the dumpsters, but they're all the comments that you told us in your presentation
Well,
that you're in favor of.
maybe, Mr. Chairman, I can, first of all, I think what I said, if I may go back, maybe I'm wrong, I think I said we were willing to adopt and work with the city engineer on all of her comments, number one. Number two, perhaps we can help the situation by adding, as we do in so many other cases, an agreement that should there not be sufficient space for snow on site, we'll remove it. Make it a condition.
Okay? And then the question is, when we move it, where do you put it in the interim to remove it? You have to, you need a spot on the land.
Remove it off the site.
I know that, sir. Can I finish my statement first?
Yes, sure.
'Cause I let you speak elegantly before, and I'm interrupting you.
Absolutely.
You pile it up, then you remove it. So my question would be, where would the pile be? You pile it all into a big pile. The truck comes in, the front-end loader comes in, picks it up, dumps it in the site, and takes it off-site. So when we move it off-site, you'll still need a spot on the property to store all the plowed snow prior to removal. I mean, you just don't come in, scoop it up, and take it off-site every time you pick up a front-end loader. You're gonna have basically a plow, so my question would be, where would the snow be stored prior to the removal of the snow? No answer? Okay.
There's plenty of room on
It
site.
isn't no answer,
It's
Mr.
not no
Chairman.
answer.
I'll give you the answer, 2 answers. Answer number 1 is, I can bring in a payloader and a dump truck and do it all at one time. That's one possibility. The other is, we can just push it all up into the back lot. And there's plenty of room in the back to pile up snow, the funny lot in the back left up there.
Where the parking is.
Right,
Yeah.
where the parking is, to remove the snow from there. So I know of,
I have a hard time, I think you have a hard time getting the snow to that back lot.
Well, of course, but that's just more work and more money, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah,
That
but,
means,
okay, look, how wide of area do you have before you enter that residential parking lot that's set on the plan? How wide is that road? Before you go into that, what you have?
Here,
Yep, how wide is that?
20 feet.
20 feet?
Yeah.
Without snow in the ground?
it's the size of the most streets
Mm-hmm.
in the neighborhood.
Okay.
Because I can see when you come in
And
through
that's,
there.
that's 40 feet, actually, in practicality, because there's nothing, this whole area is paved and it's open.
Yeah,
But
but-
technically, I understand.
But
I'm
that's
giving
not your
you-
land.
I understand, that's
So
why.
so just because it's open doesn't give you the authority to push the snow on
No,
someone
but I'm
else's
giving you,
property.
it's 20 feet, sir,
Right.
to the corner.
So basically,
A
you
plow
are-
is,
Right.
is 8,
So he's gonna plow through there and push the snow on the other person's land, like you just said.
It's going on his own land.
But it's a different piece of property, correct?
No,
The gas
it's,
station's not the same piece of property?
that piece of property is owned by the applicant.
I know, but that's not the piece of property that's coming for site plan review.
It is.
The gas station is?
No, not the gas station. I'm
Right.
talking about the piece in the back left-hand
Right.
corner, the
But if he
odd
pushes
piece.
snow on that on the land over to the far left. Mm-hmm. Right,
yeah.
right.
And you have 20 feet from this corner to this curb. So you have 20 feet to push the snow into this piece of property without going into the gas station.
Okay, and so you're gonna take all that snow that's plowed by a city plow to the right of your property and push it all back up there?
Yes.
Okay.
You can make it a condition, too.
Okay. Now, you have the slope of the parking that's adjacent to Liberty Street. They say the slope there is excessive,
Yeah,
and this should be graded and flattened out.
right,
And the height of the retaining wall would be increased.
right.
Will that be done?
Yeah, excessive. I think we're cutting it down right now. I'm pushing the back, go back to the city engineer. If you look at the grading, I'm pushing the contours back, I'm flattening it.
I'm very
Now,
familiar with that.
excessive, I think 5% is not excessive. Maybe 15% is excessive, but if it's 5%, I don't think it's excessive, but we're improving the existing parking lot.
Okay, and where are the driveway drains gonna be?
The driver what?
It says here, driveway drains need to be installed.
I believe in another comment from the city engineer, she says you have to comply with Chapter 3, Volume of the storm. We're going to comply with that. And with the state guidelines for redevelopment, you have to decrease the runoff by at least 20%. And we showed here that it's increased by 30%, not 20%. So.
I know, but she mentions that underneath the stormwater, but then she picks up underneath about the, that as well, so that's what my question was.
Yeah,
I
I'll
have-
have to go back and I'll talk to her.
I have no objections, Mr. Chairman, to making all of the city engineer's comments a condition.
Okay. So if he's saying that it's gonna meet Chapter 3 checklist, and the engineer's still making the comment that they need to be the drains installed.
Well, you can, if you don't take the roof runoff and then you let everything goes, it flows off the lot, yeah, then you have to pick up some of that runoff. But if you're collecting 2,300 square feet of the proposed impervious, that will show that, you know, you have a 30% decrease.
I have nothing further. Any of the board members have any further comment from what other members have brought up in discussion?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr.
So, first of all, I want to say that I think this is a good idea. I think this project works in general. I think you're cleaning up a lot that had blight on it. Yeah, I think putting a convenience store there is a perfectly acceptable thing to want to do. You're adding parking to a place that needs parking, so this is a project that we need to make work. However, it is a rather strange lot, and it's complicated by the fact that this gas station is over here, and you have to have a right-of-way and everything. And I think Mr. Claremont's right. Even though you're adding parking to the situation here, we do need to think about, the long term and the fact that there are residential units here, and what's the traffic flow going to be like, and we want to make sure there's enough parking available to handle all of the operations on this site. And I was thinking that, I understand that DPD desires to have the neighborhood business frontage right out on the sidewalk, but I wonder if in this case, we're not causing more problems than we're solving by pushing this building forward and forcing the traffic to go in this alley behind the convenience store. And it seems to me the flow on the entire lot would work better if we pushed the building back and we put the parking in front. I know that's where you started. But and I wonder. I've seen situations in the city, like in Couple Square, for instance. We have a business that's been brought out to the front. And I'm not even sure I like the look of it, because it's separated by a big open lot with a gas station that sits back. And it looks like it really, and I've talked to many neighbors up there who say, what is that? Why do we push that lot out front? So, with this open lot to the left, with the gas station on it, I'm wondering if we're causing more problems than we're solving by pushing this lot to the street, pushing this building to the street. Aaron, what do you think? What's the rationale?
I can understand looking at this evening the circulation challenges with this site. I think it's been mentioned a number of times that the general shape of the lot is unique, is an understatement. We have looked at the site plan with the building setback. I would argue that the pedestrian vehicle interaction on that site plan was worse than this, that the circulation was less clear and less separated than what is being presented now, even though there are questions in this case. There was also less parking that could be worked out with that site plan, and had the same issues with dumpster location and dumpster maintenance. So I understand that this site is a challenge in terms of circulation, but moving the building to the front is not what's causing it. It's the site itself, and it's the restrictions in the shape of the site that is causing it.
Well, I think that, so I can understand that, but I think that it would cause problems with the circulation. Solve problems with the circulation. Mr. Claremont was suggesting, an exit only on the left side of the property, or I guess that's the west side of the property. But in reality, you can call that exit only if you want. People are not going to just exit from there, because people are going to come across the gas station property to get in there. Even if we put a sign up there that says exit only, people are going to enter from there. So we can't properly make that an exit only, I think, under the situation. Seems to me if we pushed it back, maybe change the orientation a little bit, we could get more parking in front. Maybe that would allow us to use some of the space that's allocated for parking in the upper left corner here for snow storage. Mr. Frechette and I were just talking about the fact that currently, since this is residential parking over here, and the residences are over on the exact opposite part of the building, anybody who parks there is going to have to come across the driveway or come across a flow of traffic in order to get to their residence. So, I don't know. I think it's a project that we should try to make work. I just wonder if we need to take another look at the orientation of the building and try to address the issues that everybody's bringing up tonight with traffic flow and snow storage and all of that without the restriction. Consider removing the restriction of pushing the building forward. I don't know what my colleagues think about that, but that's just something I'll throw out there.
Mr. Chairman, if I could add to what Mr. Genron was saying, is if we just entertain that thought of the building being put back towards the rear of the site, then if you think the pedestrian access across the site. From the rear parking, you could actually run some sort of pedestrian walk along the edge of that site, then runs right along the building, side of the building curbing, and then that runs across the front of the building that gets you to the other side of the site, and then with a crosswalk. And then you can actually navigate the site on foot with some relative safety compared to what we're looking at right now. I mean, it's just something to think about as we're, think of how that, how you would get from your automobile to even the convenience store from that back location. Right now, you're going to cross that, basically that intersection, or that, where the cars come around, where if the building was set towards the rear, again, you could actually have a sidewalk that comes up alongside the building, where you just access it right from that rear parking, and you don't have cars coming around to be a potential conflict. You don't have any original renderings, do you, councilors from the?
I might, if you want to take, Cal, do you have any of those renderings from with you?
I've been through like 3 building commissioners and zoning boards, and this is now the planning board, and I've had every options, and we can look at this and we can come up with another option. And if that was the case, my preference was to go to the ZBA and say, keep the building where it is and add to the front like we originally wanted to do. And
you should know we've done that, and we're actually technically scheduled to go there next week to make the argument that we should be able to keep the building against the back. And in order to accommodate the city and in the interest, you know me, I'm trying to do it right and make everybody happy. But, I'm hearing, I'm hearing, I'm wondering if you guys have gone through my file, because I'm hearing what we said a long time ago was the best way. Now, in fairness to Aaron and the city planning folks, I understand what they're saying. They want the building up on the sidewalk because it's a cityscape. It's that kind of a thing, a neighborhood store and whatever. So on that basis, we capitulated and said, okay, we'll do it that way, and we'll bring it up that way. We didn't like it,
Sure.
but we said we'd do that. So now, these folks are exhausted. I'm exhausted. To tell you the truth, they almost walked away from this a while ago, and I said, no, please, let me set up another meeting and get it done again. Aaron will confirm that, okay? I went to other sources to say, we need to find a way. This poor guy, he said it, it's 5 years. How many, he's permitted 14 other projects of a similar ilk in the time that this is going on, and we're exhausted. Do we want to do it right? Of course we do. We all, that's it. The chairman has brought up some legitimate questions, but we're not dealing with an easy lot here. That's the problem.
Well, and Councilor, it's, believe me, but as a board member, I don't appreciate a process that takes place long before it comes here, and then when it comes here, we've had this happen with several projects as of late, and then basically tell us, geez, as a board trying to do your job, we've all put a lot of work into this, and we prefer you don't change it. So that's, so from that perspective, just trying to really explore some of the options, because I really look at the site. You've got the Queen's Pizza, which really fits the quintessential neighborhood business. But then you've got, right here is the breaking point where you've got the gas station that's set back, it's wide open, almost has the look as regional retail. So you can almost see the transition with this particular building in the middle. So again, I guess I would have liked to have been in on the conversations early on as well. But it's challenging. I think it's from a pedestrian standpoint, I think there's circulating the site, I think that, I think it could perhaps make it safer as well. I just, I understand the challenges here, but I think it's worthy of exploring. Quite frankly, I don't think we've come up with with a solution as to the difficulty of navigating the site, and I think Mr. Claremont has some great points, but when I look at making this a one-way and making this turn, nobody's going to park into that handicap parking spot, because you won't be able to get into it. Unless you come across the site, like Mr. Gendron said. That's the only way you're gonna get into that handicap parking. Otherwise, you're gonna do a three-point turn to get into there. If we propose a one-way, I'd like to have the city traffic engineer take a look at that. I just don't know how that's gonna work. When you add these three sites here, the only, the last two, you probably, when you make this turn, you'll be able to fit into properly. But other than going into the right-of-way to get around. So,
Can I just help you with one other
Sure.
thing and tell you how we have arrived at this conundrum? Because we wanted to build against the back wall where our pre-existing non-conforming structure existed. A ruling was made by the building department that we couldn't do that. If that happens, we have to come 15 feet off the back. We don't have that much room back to front to do, and then we have to, and then the code also says we can only be so far back from the street as well. So that's again why this is a crazy lot. I'm always willing to work and rework things. We wouldn't be here tonight if that wasn't the case. Aaron will tell you that. We've spent many long hours kicking this around, dealing with it, I was very tempted to come and argue the first plan to this board, because that was my feeling, and I thought you might have somewhat of the same sense that I had. But I deferred, and the client deferred to the city. And I don't want to create controversy, but I'm just saying, just imagine what this guy's gone through. Just imagine what he's gone through to get us to this point.
And it's very small project. It's not cost-effective to do, just to go through the engineering to it, the aspect. There's so many layouts and so many building permits, and I challenged the building commissioner, basically, in one of the submissions, that this is an existing non-conforming building. It had a structure on it, and we're not talking about the use. The use was a garage. The proposed use is allowed use by right. We should be able to use that structure and expand it in a way that it meets the setback, and keep the non-conforming wall, which is in the back, as non-conforming, and cut it down. My proposal was to cut the wall down and make it more conforming. If I had 75 feet of non-conforming back wall, it was back to 45 feet of non-conforming. So I made it more conforming. But unfortunately, at one time with Mr. Camacho, we were ready to get a building permit, but then they changed a few times. I went through 3 building commissioners, and it was frustrating for me, because every time I come up here, I had to explain the process over and over to that new person that took over. And it's time consuming, and unfortunately, it costs money too,
Don't point at me when you say that, Al. What is the board's pleasure? We need to get the project done. Can we work off of this plan, Mr. Chairman, or what can we do here? Should we
Up to
quit?
all of us. It's not just me. I just had.
No, I'm asking you sort of to the whole board. I know I'm going
I'll let
through
them
the
all
board.
comment.
I think you have a really good project here. It's good for the neighborhood there, it's good development. But there are a number of really outstanding issues here I think you need to address. And one that has to do with the traffic flow, and even that proposed sidewalk extension that Mr. Genron was talking about. I think you have to be a little bit more sensitive to pedestrian and vehicular safety here than you are. You're creating a nice situation here for people to walk and purchase things, and just a nicer area, and you're generating foot traffic here you don't even know about yet. So I think you really have to look at that from a sidewalk standpoint and the traffic flow going around in one direction. I'd like to see you work with DPD on additional landscaping, and particularly the snow storage. I question whether you really have the capacity there. And the chairman's comment about you're here for site plan approval, not for that adjacent property, whether the applicant owns it or not, but for what we're looking at. There are just a number of outstanding issues here. I like the project, I want to see it succeed, but we've got to work them out.
And the issue, again, in my mind, is I'm looking at the gas station site as a separate site, and if somebody came in and there were to be a fence there, we got a problem dealing with those, and that's why it suggested the one way. I don't know if we could think about some sort of a condition, and as Mr. Gendron said, as a practical matter, if that's two-way traffic here, people are gonna go over the gas station lot and park in those spots, and there probably won't be an issue with that unless somebody puts up a fence, which, you know, at some point they may have a right to do. Maybe we could consider approving it as a two-way with a condition that if that lot line got delineated in such a way that it caused a problem with two-way traffic in and out of there, we'd have to revisit it at that time. That may never, ever happen. And really, that's the issue in my mind. If it did happen, that's what we'd have to concern ourselves with. If somebody bought that and said, wait a minute, I don't want them using my property to access those spots. But if it doesn't, I don't really have a problem with the two-way traffic being able to access that, because in point of fact, there's enough room there using the other guy's lot. If he allows you to do that, it never cuts you off. That's really the issue in my mind. As a planning board member, I think we have to be cognizant of that. But I guess I wouldn't have a problem saying, if that were to happen in the future, that's when we have to deal with it, when it does happen. So, I don't know what you think about that.
Can I just add, the other dynamic here is that, believe it or not, and the other reason why we capitulated, I hate to keep using that word, to this plan, is that if you approved it tonight, we're ready to put the shovel in the ground. We don't have to go to the zoning board and get a variance for this, a variance for that, or whatever, and deal with that all over again for God knows how long. So to the extent I can endorse your suggestion, I certainly would be glad to do it and hope that we could get this thing taken care of. As I said, I understand the chairman's concerns about snow removal. We'll find the way to remove it, Mr. Chairman. If we can't, then, we'll get 5 trucks there. Obviously, if you want to put a condition that we have to remove it within an hour's time or a certain period of time, then we'll go along with that.
The only
He
question I
wants
had
to
is,
get this job done.
Yeah, I mean, we're here under 11.4, number 2, site layout, location of snow storage areas and trash dumpsters. I mean, it's one of the things we have to consider and make a,
Of course.
okay? So my question was, I really don't see you pushing all that snow up to the left and the far back. I don't see it. I mean, this year alone, I've been at the front of my driveway when it's been chest high, and that's been in 24 hours. I mean, okay? I know we had a bad snowstorm this year, but to push when the plow comes by, and everybody here knows when they clean their driveway, they stand there, they're all done, the city plow comes by. And you're gonna to get in there, to plow that out, you're gonna have a regular pickup truck bring it in. Because there's no other big truck that's gonna get them on the back of that building, up into the corner and push it all. And when they're pushing it, what happens? It falls all to the sides. And so my question would be, it's not gonna fit up there. He's not gonna be able to push the snow all the way up to the top left corner. So if you wanna take it off-site, the question like I had is, you need a storage area spot to maintain the snow until they come and take it off-site. I mean, like this year, this past winter, we had 3 storms in 24 hours. Okay? You can't get trucks in there. I mean, we couldn't get city trucks out to hit side streets for a long period of time. So my question was, if you're designating that top left area to hold that whole site for snow to begin with, I don't see it being done practical. I mean, the city engineer commented on it. We're commenting on it. It's on 11.4 in the site plan approval. It says right here, snow storage and trash dumpsters. And
Well,
to take it out where the trash dumpsters is, we already have a comment from the health department about those. Now we have a comment from the city engineer about it, but I can't see you putting all that snow up there. I don't think it's adequate.
Mr. Chairman, I
Express my concern.
just confirmed with Mr. K-Ruse that he's also responsible for moving snow of the gas station too. So if that's the case, no, I'm just saying, if that's the case, then he's got much more territory to be able to pile that snow up.
I know, but we do the site plan approval tonight. It has nothing to do with the gas station.
But it's not, there's nothing that precludes him, as the owner of that property and the tenant of the other property, from using that as a snow storage area
Right,
temporarily.
But on our plan tonight, if we were to approve something, number one, the plan that we got, not prior to tonight at 6:30, shows no snow storage. None. The one that was advertised and put on for the plan for people to come and look at does not have one spot of snow storage. If you come in and said, we have a memorandum of understanding, we have a legal document that says we're allowed to put this snow on this site for a questionable period of time to remove it, like we've done in other facilities, for parking, to meet parking, when you've come in before and asked us to be understanding, if they can have off-site parking, and they have an agreement with the neighbor, yeah. But I mean,
But
when
I'm-
on this site plan approval, the layout.
Aren't we really saying, Mr. Chairman, that regardless of the plan, whether we go back to the suggested plan of going further back or where we are here, the same problem exists? So you're saying to me, by virtue of the fact that you don't believe it can be done that way, that this project is dead and can't be done?
No.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying on the plan that was submitted, and on the comment we got from the city engineer, it says there's no snow storage on site.
Because the city engineer hasn't seen this plan yet.
Right,
This plan I
right.
just presented. And I
Exactly.
said before the meeting,
Exactly.
if I recall, I said we are willing to work with
And we had a
city
deadline
planner.
for it,
There's-
and, okay?
Yeah.
Let me back up then. So the city engineer hasn't seen the new plan. So shouldn't we send it back to the city engineer to look at the new plan for further comment? Or do we just disregard the city engineer whenever you bring a new plan into us? And tell us, she saw the old one, I want you to approve the new one? So under that theory, I think the city engineer should see the new plan. We don't have a report from the fire department. The city engineer mentioned the snow removal. I'm not saying it's done, I'm saying there's things that can be done, but under 11.4, on our criteria, two things to be mentioned, they're not on the plan. I mean, the snow removal is nowhere on the plan, and I have an idea for the dumpsters, but I won't get to that at this point. I mean, we have, the health department made a concern about the dumpsters, and there's two things we have to, on the site plan. Number two, we have to make a determining factor that meets the criteria. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying the project is dead, I'm just saying there's concerns on the site plan that have to be addressed. Those are the concerns I had, and they haven't been adequately raised.
What I'm saying is a practical matter, Mr. Chairman, that the project is dead, if that's the case. I'm telling you, we can remove the snow. I can get a piece of equipment in. If I can't clear a lot that size in 1 hour with a piece of equipment, and I'm not even in the business, then there's something
Should be
wrong.
approved.
Pardon me?
Then the plan should not be approved. Is that what you're saying? If you can't do it within an hour?
No,
then
I
it's-
didn't say that. I said that I shouldn't be in the snow removal business, Mr. Chairman.
I'm just done with the criteria, is what we have to address. That's the only comments I have.
Well,
I mean, we still haven't got comments back from the fire department, to see if they feel that radius is too tight in the back or not. So, but I mean,
so what shall we do, Mr. Chairman?
it's up to you, you're the applicant, I don't tell you what to do. We just address what's under the site plan requirements and ask you questions about them. That's why I asked the question when you saw the
guess-
city engineer's response, because she definitely highlighted it.
I guess I would ask the board for an up or down vote.
I have some suggestions, and I think, obviously, we're struggling with the site, and we all, I think, agree that we want the site redeveloped, and the plan itself is a good plan if we could work out these issues. And I've just been working up some language with some proposed conditions if the board were to accept the project. And I'll just throw these out for discussion without a motion being on the floor. I would be suggesting that snow be removed off the site if there is insufficient storage. We will want the approval of the fire department to these plans, that the applicant work with the city engineer to comply with all of her requirements, including her 812 memo, and that if two-way traffic over the right-of-way becomes problematic due to limitation of access to the right-of-way, the issue will be reviewed at that time to modify the access and then to provide the proper signage and labeling as requested by the traffic engineer. I think it's not perfect, but I think that it works with the site as we have it and the features on the ground, so to speak. So that would be my suggestion as an approval with conditions. So I just open that up for discussion.
I agree with that. I'd like to add just one, and that's to work specifically with the traffic engineer and DPD on pedestrian issues, and to take a closer look at the entire sidewalk area along Chelmsford Street, to see what you can do that's cost-effective to help that situation. But I would second that.
Yeah, I would, I would agree with that. I think that if we're going to make this a neighborhood business type thing, the concern I brought up right away is I'd really like to see that sidewalk continue down to the corner, or at least some way to make it a safe, pedestrian access. So if we could underscore that, maybe make that kind of a condition of approval, I think I would go along with that. And I think Mr. Claremont's conditions make sense to address the traffic flow should something come to obstruct that gas station property in the future and getting the snow off. The other thing I would say is maybe we could do something, maybe it's even just a marked, some kind of raised pathway that would allow residents who are parking in this far corner of the building to get to their place of residence, because they're going to be having to cross traffic. Maybe it comes, around in front of the building, maybe just crosses that. Maybe it's like a raised crosswalk or something there to make it easier to walk or more safe to walk as well.
A different material even and a different color.
Perhaps, yeah.
Or I may suggest, because you have 15 feet here from the edge of the building to the, I agree, if we carry the sidewalk across the front of the building along the south side of the building, then we can continue a 5-foot crosswalk and then run it along this side because, and so it's defined, it's out of the traffic. And we have to remember, I mean, this is mostly for residents who are coming home after work or maybe after peak hour. We're not talking, this is like a high-rise building.
Understand.
No, I understand.
Understand,
So they at least it's defined across here, then you get to the parking lot.
Right.
So.
We can do that.
But I agree with Mr. Lockhart, the sidewalk running along to the corner, if we can do that, I think it makes the site a lot more appealing as a neighborhood business that has the building up to the front.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I agree also with the, because one of the concerns we looked at the site, the more we looked at it, was the pedestrian circulation around the site. So I think what Mr. Gendron suggested would be, I think would resolve that. Again, the suggestion of moving the building to the rear, it basically incorporates the same thing where it wraps around. This way here, at least you've got something that brings you around the building. And if my colleagues would mind, again, I would like to see that, boundary of the right-of-way to be delineated on the markings. Again, anybody can drive over it, but it's still going to help to define the site as
I
it
think a
relates to
raised
that whole.
material and a color again would help to do that.
Would help that as well. Again, it would just give some direction rather than, you can't stop the cars from going over that, but I think it would help the circulation of the site.
Just a couple of comments I have was, when we talked about the dumpsters, do you know how many, what I was thinking is, if you could put employee parking there, so they could move the cars
That's
to bring in the
exactly what we
dumpsters.
do.
Oh, yeah,
Because,
that would help.
if you do it off hours, I understand, but, you're gonna have some residential people behind there, they're not gonna wanna hear that dumpster in the morning. And then there's other people who work different shifts, aren't gonna wanna hear it at night. So I don't know how many people you'd have in the store itself, but if you put an employee there, they can go move the car and then make it adequate to get to the dumpsters.
Right, we were gonna make it employee-only
Yeah.
parking spot.
That makes sense.
So, I mean, if you do that, that way you can say, hey, I'm gonna go out and do it, you make it, 'cause that way, you really wanna try to have the dumpster come by normal operation hours, so it doesn't affect people who, we know a lot of people who work 3 shifts. And what I'm just saying for the snow is, if I don't see that it's adequate on site, because the engineer asked for the snow removal plan. So, one of the questions I would have is, if you don't have enough to store it on site pending the removal, would you have an agreement with the gas station to store some there pending the removal?
I think we,
You know what I'm saying? I mean, I just think it's to try to get it seriously from the front all the way to the back, top of the corner.
Sure.
You're gonna know, when you push that blade, the snow falls to the sides.
Yeah.
And then you get so close to the building and the lot
honestly, I forgot about the gas station, the fact that he has control and has to clear it himself, so
That's
it
what I'm
makes
thinking.
more,
So
makes more sense that he could do
So
that.
if he could or you could, because when the engineer looks at the snow removal plan, if you can say, we have an agreement, we could temporarily store it, because now you have a lot of places to put the snow with the gas station. Because you have all to the left of the building, we didn't have before. So when you come up with her plan, you say, if we don't have it adequate on-site, we may have an agreement, which might be satisfactory if we included the condition that the city engineer asked for, the snow removal is, we have temporary measure to store it off-site for a temporary period of time till it's removed. Getting back to what I've talked about before, you come before us, we've given parking spaces off-site. So if he has access to that back corner, and my memory is there's a lot of room in that back corner to that site.
Makes sense.
Because I remember when this site came in for the zoning change, and that came before us not too long ago.
Yeah,
Wasn't Attorney Forsley who came before us?
yeah, was.
I didn't hear that.
Wasn't that Attorney Forsley who came before us for the zone change?
Not the zone change,
Well, the zone change comes before us.
Yeah, he did,
city council, no.
Comes before us first.
yeah.
Came
Oh,
before
yeah,
us.
yeah, okay,
Yeah.
for recommendation.
Goes to the council, council boots it to us, and we
Right.
shoot it back. Like Attorney Victor Forsley came
Right.
for the zone change in the back,
Right.
within the last year. Yep,
Right.
we were here. So
Oh,
I'll
we
just,
did, because the line, the original line went across the property.
yeah, we call, yeah, yeah. Because I remember those, like, for a while up there, when you had those storage, whatever you want to call them, those storage area, I'm not sure, if they weren't garages per se, but,
Junk.
so.
Right.
But I mean, so I'm thinking if you put that in the snow storage plan, because now you have room to the left of that lot,
That's good.
and then if you have to use it over to the right for a short period of time to get it out of there, then at least you have alternatives, because like you say, if you do have an agreement with somebody who's on, off-site to you, just to put it in that back left corner for temporary measure, because then you do have nice adequate access to get to that snow to haul it out, because you have to bring the front end loader in, dump it into the big dump truck and drive it off-site. So that might be something you want to consider if the city engineer is looking for that snow plant removal. So I think it picks up, if you do two things with the employee parking, it satisfies maybe what the Board of Health was looking at by blocking the dumpsters, and two, the snow plan removal, the city engineer is looking at if you have to take it off-site, because put in, to the furthest part of the site to the top left corner, it's a tough way to push all that snow if you have a decent snowstorm. I mean, because you can figure, even if you have 3 inches, by the time you push it all the way up and around to the back, I mean, you know yourself, when you push your shovel, it doesn't last long before you get to the end of your driveway. It doesn't make it, even with the snow blower, so. But those would be my concerns regards to the dumpster and the snow removal.
Okay.
All right, and I'll make a motion to approve with conditions. Want me to repeat them, Aaron, or you got them?
Yeah, if you could, please, thank
When
you.
you go through them, right about.
One, it'd be the snow removed off the site if there's insufficient storage. 2, at the approval of the fire department. 3, work with the city engineer to comply with all her requirements, including her memo of 8/12/11. To provide the proper signage and labeling as requested by the traffic engineer. If the two-way traffic over the right-of-way becomes problematic due to limitation of access to the right-of-way, the issue will be reviewed at that time to modify access.
Is that reviewed by the planning board, or is that what it is?
Yes.
Okay.
And then to work with the traffic engineer regarding the pedestrian issues. Continue the sidewalk to the corner. The use of raised materials to delineate the crosswalk,
Okay,
and to attempt to direct the employee parking in front of the dumpsters.
got him. Thank you.
I'll second the motion.
To the make of the motion, Mr. Chairman, is to also add to that, again, the delineation of the right-of-way boundary as it pertains to the site.
Okay, and delineate the right-of-way boundaries.
Okay, so we have a motion. Any further discussion? Well, we have a motion. Did we have a second?
Second.
Motion made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes yes. Any opposition? Hearing none. The site plan has been approved. Good luck. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Moving along, the next order on the agenda is the zoning amendment, 390 Pawtucket Street. A public hearing will be held to hear all interested persons relative to the proposed zoning amendment to extend the TMU, Traditional Mixed Use Zoning District, to include the property located at 390 Pawtucket Street. The property is currently located within a traditional single-family district. This matter comes before the planning board for recommendation only, then the matter will have to go back to the city council for a vote for the zoning amendment. Can we hear from the applicant, please?
Gentlemen of the Planning Board, I'm Rachel Edlund. I'm here with my husband, Gregory Edlund. We are the occupants and owners of 390 Pawtucket Street. When we purchased the property 10 years ago, the house that we acquired was a three-family, non-conforming use, and it was zoned traditional single-family, traditional neighborhood single-family, which it continues to be. We, however, instead of using it as a three-family house, have been using it as a single-family. And when we had renovations done a couple of years ago to the kitchen and bathrooms, at that time the assessor came through and pronounced it a single-family use. So it had gone back to the conforming use of the property. We are now in the process of downsizing, planning on staying in Lowell, but selling our great big house, moving into something smaller, and potential buyers could be very interested in that property going back to at least a two-family use. We have since removed the second of the three units, potential units, so there's no longer a third kitchen, but there is a second kitchen, and there's egress in the house that's available for use as a two-family and so forth. There would be other conditions that if a buyer so chooses, they would need to comply with the requirements for the second, or an apartment use. But what we are looking for now is the ability to sell the house with that zoning change in place so that it can happen, so it could be more appealing to a buyer. I'm not sure if you have the zoning maps or isolated areas. I do have diagrams.
Yeah, we have copies here. Right here.
Thank you.
Sure, so, okay. Oh, I got you, yeah. Okay. It's a very pretty house.
Big house, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, they got the picture here, right, yeah. I went on I saw it on your multi-listing.
Could be something other than single family, huh?
It almost looks like one of the This piece is stuck out here, so she wants to make this. So all to the right of hers, is it right? Yeah. So all this, the same as her.
So that's pretty much it in a nutshell. We just are trying to do it legally and need your recommendation to the City Council for restoring the property back to a multifamily opportunity, which the traditional neighborhood mixed use would afford it. I was a little up in the air whether or not to go with multifamily or the mixed use, but because we were adjacent or abutted on two sides by mixed use, that was the direction we were going, and it would certainly not preclude a buyer from turning the house into a two-family house. We are, in our neighborhood, by the way, most of those big houses have been turned into multifamily use. We have condominiums on one side and apartments across the street from us.
Thank you. Anything else you'd like to add?
That was it.
Okay. Anybody else want to speak in favor of the zoning amendment on 390 Pawtucket Street?
Mr. Chairman, members of the planning board, my name is Mark Goldman, 58 Oakland Street, Lowell, Mass. I'm very familiar with that area. A friend of mine used to live in that house, and I urge that the planning board, if they have any conditions, approve this unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Goldman. Anyone else like to speak in favor of the rezoning? Anyone else? In favor? In favor? Hearing none, that portion of public hearing is closed. Anyone like to speak in opposition? In opposition? In opposition? Hearing none, that portion of public hearing is closed. The board members have any questions, comments?
I have.
Yes, Mr. Lockhart?
What is the parking like here without a plan to look at?
The parking,
Yeah, what?
there's a driveway to the house
Yeah, on
with
the back
parking.
side, I know. What?
There's no parking on the back side.
Oh. So we're talking about this garage here?
The parking is in a garage and in the driveway.
Oh, and in the driveway?
Right.
How many cars?
There can fit one car in the driveway. So if there was to be if this was to return to a multifamily use, the next person or whoever turns it into multifamily needs to probably do a curb cut and a driveway that comes in from the Wanna-Lancet Street side.
Right, so that would be a separate issue.
And I've looked at the lot to see if that's feasible, and there is setback and clearance and the distance that it would need to go into the property, as well as the clearance from the house itself. It could be done.
Okay.
It would probably be a tandem
Yeah.
parking.
Fine, if you say, okay. Is this in the historic district?
It is, it's in the
And if so, do you
Wanna-Lancet,
have to go
it's
to
in the
historic
Wanna-Lancet
board?
Historic District.
You have to go to the historic board, or what's?
There's no change proposed here to the exterior of the house.
So at that time, if there was changes, whether they be parking or whatever they might be,
I
then you'd
don't-
have to, right?
I don't think,
Or that
Richard, that if there had to be a driveway
Yeah.
added, I don't think that impacts the historic board.
Probably not, but, yeah, okay, that's all I have.
That's normally for the demolition and,
Yeah, no, I understand.
yeah.
Mr. Gentleman, any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to clarify, we recommend only on
City
this.
Council,
City
correct?
Council has to vote on this. You have a beautiful home. It's a beautiful
Thank you.
home.
I've really been enjoying it. Thank you.
And I think, the situation here, in my opinion, is that, Wanna-Lancet Street is all single-family. And, I think we want to protect against our neighborhoods being chiseled away and turned into multi-unit dwellings. This is a beautiful single-family home on a street that is all single-family homes. If we change it to multi-unit, it will become a multi-unit complex. And I think that will degrade the neighborhood, take away from the neighborhood. And if we do it on this lot, what about the lot across the street, or the lot next to that?
If I could respond to that?
Sure, just let me.
Go ahead, sure.
So in principle, I think it's a mistake for us to do this. I think we should preserve our single-family neighborhoods and not whittle away at them. So I don't feel like I could recommend to the city council that we should change the zoning on the dwelling. But go ahead if you wanted to respond.
I was just going to say that if there was going to be any change, it would require, the parking requirements would have to be in place, and there's no way to accomplish additional parking without acquiring adjacent property to provide enough parking for it to be anything other than a two-family residence.
Sure, I understand that, but I think the changes to parking, you can accomplish through variance. The changes to zoning, the zoning should govern the type of dwelling that we think should be on that property. So I wouldn't, if we change this to mixed unit, we're basically saying this is a mixed unit piece of property, And, we could potentially, address the parking situation through on-street parking or some type of variance. But I think that the zoning should govern what type of property we think should be on that piece of land. And this is a beautiful single-family home, and I wouldn't want to see it become anything else. So I would not be in favor of changing the zoning. Sorry.
By the way, most of the properties that are on Wanalancet Street are multifamily use, not single-family use. They're non-conforming to the traditional neighborhood single-family.
Well, if that's so, then that's an issue that the building department should be addressing.
Well,
And not,
and if they've gone back to single-family use, then it kicks it back so that you cannot return to multifamily use again without going through a zoning
we
change.
shouldn't have, in these properties that are zoned single-family, we shouldn't have multi-units. That's a problem with the city building department if that's the
Yeah,
case.
those
But,
uses came into place before the zoning laws were in place, so they're
Yeah.
grandfathered.
I can only deal with what's in front of me now, And the other thing is, if it's mixed use, then that allows for somebody potentially to put a business there, which changes the character again completely. So, I wish I could support it, but I feel as though it goes against kind of, my philosophy on how we should be protecting our neighborhoods.
How would you feel if it were zoned multifamily as opposed to mixed use? TMU, and instead of TMU, go to TMF? We border, just, as you see the map, we're right on that edge, so that the TMF is kind of in our backyard, so to speak.
Yeah, I don't think that would really change my position. I feel as though, it's a single-family neighborhood. It's, it's a square, boundary line to the single-family neighborhood. I think to change that to multifamily should be a wider, maybe the city council needs to look at rezoning. If it's truly used as multifamily, then maybe the city council should take up, an action to reconsider the zone on that whole street. But from what I'm looking at here, it's a single-family street, all single families up and down, and we're just carving out one corner that has a beautiful single-family home on it to make mixed use or multifamily, and I personally wouldn't be in favor of that.
If you see unit number 14 on Wanalancet Street, that's a condo with 3 units in it. Address number 38 is a 2-family. Address 28 is a 2-family. Address number 406, Pawtucket Street, is an 8-family unit. That's directly across the street. Next to that, address number 15.
You're talking about across what street?
Across Wanalancet Street.
406?
406. If you see that number on the map,
Yeah.
that's currently an 8-family apartment unit. Number 15
So again,
is an 8 unit.
we could go down the street, but that's a larger issue. I think that's a larger issue for the city council to deal with. If this street, the character of this street has changed, they should take that up. But I wouldn't feel comfortable, as I said, carving out one
Yeah, I'm just
lot.
trying to get an apartment on the 3rd floor.
Maybe I missed.
The house has about 5,300 square feet.
No, it's not here. Yeah, we don't have anything.
Any further comments? No? Okay. Just checking the zoning map here, checking the TSF, TTF, TMU. Mr. Claremont, you have any questions, concerns?
Yes, thank you. I think your situation is a little unique in that it was an existing non-conforming three-family converted back to a single-family. In addition, I think that if you were going for a zoning change, TMU is the appropriate zone change to seek, because it would be an extension of the existing TMU zone. It looks like just the corner of it is cut out as a TSF zone. I don't think it'd be appropriate to go, even though it probably fits better as a TMF change, but you don't abut TMF. You border it, but you don't abut it, so it wouldn't be an extension of TMF, so that may be considered a spot zone. So I have no issue with recommending an extension of the TMU zone under these circumstances to include your property.
Mr. Fisher?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Yeah, I agree with some of the comments from Attorney Claremont, and I understand Mr. Gendron's concerns as well, but I'd see where it's a logical extension along Pawtucket Street of the TMU zone. I agree with Mr. Attorney Claremont regarding the TMF as an option. I think that the TMU across the street on Pawtucket Street is zone TMU, and the abutting property, the Pawtucket Pharmacy. I'm also aware of the units on the homes in on Wanna-Lancet Street. I think they've been that way for some time. I'm somewhat comforted in the fact that it is the Wanna-Lancet Historic District. I think as far as the character, the external character of that home, I don't think will be altered in a detrimental way to the appearance that we're seeing right now. And again, you ought to be complimented for the work and that you did do on this home, and the upkeep on it is very, very attractive, and it's a very high visible spot as well. So, I think from an external standpoint, I don't think the character that is going to be allowed to change. There is oversight in place, and I think it is somewhat, the site is somewhat limited as far as the number of units that would end up in there. I suspect the two-family would be the maximum you could probably get on that site. So from that perspective, I would have no issue with recommending a extension of the TMU zone to that site.
I just have a couple of questions. I'm glad you pointed out, I mean, I know Wanna-Lancet's a busy street. We've been up there several times. You know, the ones with 3 units, a two-family, and the one number 406 is an 8-family. On the one further down from 406, on the plan you gave us, I see 406 and you have 15, 19. What's
Yes.
all these 33, 35, 37, 39? Can you enlighten me on that?
33 is a three-family,
Okay.
43 is a single-family.
But on 33, do you see where it's 37, 5, and 39 also? Do you see
Yes,
all-
those are all together because they're all separate units.
Okay, so how many units are there? So that's a 4-unit building?
As I checked the assessor's website,
Okay.
the information I got there was as a three-family.
3-family? So it's a 3-family is 4 units? And that's why it has the 4 numbers, I take it? Okay.
Your guess is as good as
Okay,
mine.
all right. And then, what'd you say 43 is? I'm sorry?
43 is a single-family,
Okay.
although it's very, very large, but
I
as
could
I
tell.
understand, it's a single-family.
Bigger than that.
Yeah.
And number 57 is a 12-unit
Oh, wow.
condo.
Are any of these, like the 8 families or the 12 units, are any of these like used for the university for housing or anything? Do you know?
Is anything what?
Do any people rent these out for students at the university? Any of these big 8 families or 12 units or all these, any students?
Not that I can tell from seeing the neighborhood, and we've also got restricted parking on that street, so that helps. It's resident parking only.
I mean, it's tough because you had it as a 2, then you maintain it as a single, so you kind of lose that right, which is difficult. And so you enjoyed it so much as a single family, now you just want to come back and make what everybody else does, and everybody else was grandfathered in because of the fact that you didn't, because of the fact that you use it as a single family. But I think looking at the 8-family next year, the 3 units to be there, and to be consistent with the neighborhood, I'd go along with it. You know, the fact is, I'd have no problem with the TMU, I think, as Attorney Claremont said, and Mr. Lockhart mentioned, usually we get a letter from Mr. Fenton, our city solicitor, saying that it's not spot zoning. As Attorney Claremont indicated, if you did the TMF where it doesn't abut the other zone, then it could be considered spot zoning, and that'd be a legal question that the law department would have to answer. But whenever you extend a zone, the courts have ruled it's not spot zoning. And that's, every time we get one from Attorney Fenton, and from speaking with him over the years, indicated, so, I think it's a very nice piece of property. I think, if they come back to do anything on the site, number one, Mr. Lockhart here asked about the historic district. He's our representative for the historic district, so he sits on our historic board.
So do I.
So to speak.
I was chair just before Dick.
Oh, were you? Okay, so you know the significance what the historic will do, okay?
You gotta ask them, right? You gotta ask them.
Yeah, so I think with the help of the historic and do what's consistent with the neighborhood, I'd be willing to make a recommendation to go along with it, because I think, as you indicated, when they come back to do any type of other parking, it's gonna trigger some type of,
Yeah, it's gonna have to be looked at.
come back before us or somebody else,
Yes.
so, it's a nice home, so I wouldn't have a problem with the recommendation myself.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Before we move a vote, so given the fact that the character of 1 Lancet Street clearly has changed from the traditional single-family, it's more of a traditional mixed, multifamily.
Yeah, TMF, yeah.
Yeah. Rather than recommending a TMU on this lot, just because it seems to be less likely to be considered spot zoning, the TMU is really, it abuts this property because of the pharmacy next door, right? It really seems like traditional mixed, multifamily is what this street should be, and not just this one piece of property, but the street. Would it make sense to, rather than recommend a change to TMU, ask the city council or recommend the city council reconsider the zoning of 1 Lancet Street to traditional multifamily?
I mean, we can make a statement like that. I know on a case like this, we either have to recommend yes or no. And then if we put a caveat that, upon looking it over, maybe the city council could consider.
If I could add to that, too, one for your consideration, gentlemen, is the fact that about 4 feet of the property, 4 or 5 feet of the property actually does abut on the rear side the TMF. There's a very short overlap.
Oh, I see what you say. Oh, okay. Oh, I see.
Yeah, you can just see it.
But obviously, it's
So that's-
it's more apparently abutting TMU, but if you wanted to borrow onto that adjacency or abutment.
Why don't we do that? Just-
Well, basically, we're only allowed to vote what's before with either yes or no.
And just for discussion, one issue that could come up with requesting a rezone of the entire area, I understand that a lot of these are pre-existing non-conforming, so they can be maintained as multifamilies if they pre-existing the zoning code. But if we requested that to be a change, it may facilitate changing some of the single families that remain to multifamily, and I don't know if we necessarily want to send that message, so.
Yeah, we really don't want to encourage that.
How about if we approve with the condition that if the city solicitor does not feel it is a spot zoning situation, that it be made traditional multifamily? In other words, we recommend approval, but if the city solicitor, with the condition that if the city solicitor feels that TMF would not be spot zoning because it does abut by 4 feet, that we recommend a change to TMF rather than TMU.
I think that makes some sense. We can request his opinion if he didn't consider it to be spot zoning, to make it TMF, more appropriate to be TMF.
And then,
Let him decide.
and then if the city council feels in their wisdom that the rest of 1 Lancet Street should be considered for a change to TMF, they can do that. But that way we can deal with the one lot appropriately, rather than just extending it because it abuts TMU. It would give you what you need to complete your project.
So I think what we can do is, we can vote for it, but I don't think we can't do a conditional approval, but we can say with as a comment. Because I know when we send it to them, they tell us we can't put conditions on it.
That's
They've told us
correct.
put that loud and clear in the past.
Correct, it's a conditional recommendation.
There's no
Isn't quite followed,
conditional.
but the board certainly has the ability to, in the recommendation, recommend that the city council explore
denial.
other options such as XYZ, and
And then there's a
they explore
comment.
with the city solicitor.
And
It's
then
it's
there's
an
a
option.
comment
Yeah, comment.
upon looking at the whole plan, and where the applicant is even addressed to us, which way would be most appropriate, now that we know that there is part of that property in the TMF already,
Correct, the board
can't
can
put-
certainly make that
you
recommendation.
know? But we can, you know, like
We
I say,
can't condition that, we can
Right,
only
yeah,
vote
so we
yes or
can just
no.
vote yes or no, and then say, upon review of it and speaking with the applicant, it's come to our attention that part of the property is in the TMF. And the applicant was, you know, asking us which way was the best to go, and, you know, it came before us, and due to the fact that what the applicant brought to our attention, all the other, you know, the 8-family, the 3, the 2, all in that area, and maybe the TMF would be more appropriate to keep that house in line with the historic significance of it, as well as the beauty of it, and then maybe the TMF would be more appropriate under the circumstances.
I'm sorry, was it suggested to you to seek the change as TMU?
Yes, I vetted this through Adam Bakey first, and he also shared that with the city solicitor.
Okay.
And it seemed more apparent that it would be easier to go TMU. But
Right.
obviously, TMF suits our purpose just fine, and I personally go along with your attitude that, you know, the more protective we can be of that neighborhood, the better, too.
So did you say that the city solicitor did make this recommendation to you? or-
I don't have it in writing, I only have it in a response from Adam Bakey in
Okay.
an email, not...
But was it from the solicitor or from Adam's opinion?
It was from Adam to me.
Okay.
This is what the solicitor had said to him, and then he passed that along to me, that the recommendation was to go TMU. But I did not stress the point that there was that short abutment to TMF either.
Right. What if we were to, and I don't want to belabor it any more than we have to, but continue it, and I'll ask the city solicitor for an opinion on whether or not we could extend the TMF zone onto this property and preserve at least the residential nature of it.
Or, as you said earlier, we could approve it and recommend that it be changed to TMF if it's not considered spot zoning. It just as a recommendation.
Right.
Yeah, 'cause I know, maybe the city solicitor's thinking, you know, if it's just a couple of feet, maybe under the case law, that's not enough to change the whole zone, because it's not consistent with the whole boundary line. I mean, a lot of times you use case law on that, it might have a good reasoning behind why you wouldn't do it, but
Yeah, that's kind of
And
what
then
I
if
would
we-
like to get is,
if we send, what we could do is, if we make the recommendation to approve this, I don't think anything prevents us through Aaron to ask the city solicitor directly what his concerns are. And, you know, he could, actually, we, as a board, we can ask that question to the law department ourselves,
Sure.
not condition upon this, and to say, you know, just say, you know, can you ask what the theory was behind it and let us know? And, you know, it came up at the meeting, the planning board talked with it, and, you know, we've been informed that Adam was involved, and with that, it came before, that they're better off to go the TMU, and there's any reason why the city solicitor feels it's better off to go that, or anything that prohibits it from go TMF. Then if not, at least that information would be available for the public hearing when you come back before the full council. So if it comes up, at least you have recommendation from the city solicitor already. So as we approve it, we could say, you know, further discussion was, should it be TMU, and what's the concerns of the city solicitor, why it should be TMU, but the understanding was that they felt it should be TMU instead of TMF. And then maybe he has something where he says, I think it could be considered spot zoning, even though it's only a few feet there to extend that zone there. And he has something legally saying it doesn't work. But then at least that information would be available to the council as well when it comes for their public hearing.
Typically, that would be available for the council, and it's typically available for the board, as you pointed out. I'm not sure why,
Yeah.
in this case, it was not, but, yeah. It's
So, I mean,
the
we could
board
just say,
certainly
discussion-wise,
request
these
that.
issues came up, and, you know, recommendation would be to consider the TMU, get a determination, obviously, from the city solicitor, which we usually do. We didn't have it tonight, what his feelings were in regards to if it could be TMF to help, you know, keep the neighborhood intact. I mean, especially a beautiful area like this here. But, you know, then I think that information's available, and if they ask you what happened to us, you say, oh, they talked about a whole bunch of stuff, and then they want to know we wanted TMF, TMU, I got confused, and but they wanted a bunch of things, so. But you can tell them, you know, the layout like you told us, and that you let the discussion come up, and then maybe the city solicitor says, well, it can either be TMU, it can't be TMF, and then it says limits it. Maybe he has some good legal reasoning behind it. But like I say, usually we get that when we get the petition from, that he said it's not spot zoning. And that's what Rich was saying earlier, it wasn't in the letter, so unless it was just an
Yeah, it's
oversight.
usually there.
Adam took it upon himself to make the legal opinion, I don't know.
I suspect he's possible. I could say, just looking at this, I would highly expect that if just 390 was rezoned TMF, that it would be considered spot zoning.
Yeah,
Even
it
though there's
kind
4
of
feet.
just looks
I think
that
it's
way.
pretty, I think this is a pretty
Yeah, so maybe
fair
that
case
whole
of
thing.
it.
Yeah,
It
I
would
mean,
take
tell me, I'm
other
sure he would have
properties.
a letter either way,
Yeah.
if he could send a letter to the council either way, whether TMF would be, or, copy to us and to the city council.
Yeah, I mean, certainly you could request and have that report from the city solicitor to provide a little bit more legal underpinning to that.
So the recommendation is back to us whether we want to allow the zone change to the TM. Our
So
recommendation
just
the
to
council.
reiterate again, based on what you've told me, it sounds like TMF is the appropriate zone for not only your house, but the street. But I don't feel comfortable recommending a change to TMU. So, I'd love to see us go through a larger exercise of maybe getting the city council to reconsider the zoning on the whole street, or maybe asking the solicitor for an opinion. But since this recommendation is coming from the planning board, we can't condition it, we can only say yes or no. I don't feel I can vote yes on that tonight, but, I'll leave it up to the rest of the board what they want to do.
Thank you for your consideration.
Well, I'd make a motion, Mr. Chairman, that we do recommend approval of the zoning change as requested, and that we put an additional comment that it would be the preference of the planning board to modify it to TMF if it were not considered to be spot zoning, and request a legal opinion regarding that.
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, motion's made and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition?
No.
Chair votes yes. So our recommendation is only a recommendation to the city council.
Understood.
We wish you all good luck.
Thank you. Next steps.
Thank you.
Lot release.
Moving along, we have a lot release request for 111-6 Farnham Ave. The board review request to issue a certificate of performance for the release of 4 residential lots, lots 1, 3, 4, and 12, from the conditional approval between the city of Lowell and Farnham Estates dated September 30th, 1987, in relation to a subdivision plan for Farnham Ave that was approved also in 1987. We did get a handout tonight that, prior to the meeting, that indicates all the work has been done. This was from Joe Caddy, that Aaron sent to him, to the engineer, based on on-site inspection of Sandy Lane and Pine Tree Lane, also known as Farnham Estates, as well as a review of the as-built, the subdivision development appears to be built to city standards. So they're looking for a lot release. It appears that the engineer says everything's in compliance. I'd make a motion that we approve it. I remember when this, actually, if you look at the plan, up, one of my signatures on there when they came in for their conditional approval. So I remember being here for this.
Really old.
Yep, 1987.
Yeah,
If
87.
you look at else who was on there, George, Charlie Kirklees, George Zarulis, Mr. Moynihan, and Arthur Hammer. All signed the plan. I'd make a motion we approve.
I'll second.
All, motion made and second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So that motion carries for the release of the lot. We do have notices from abutting town to entertain a motion to place those on file.
Second.
Motion made and second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
A&R report, place that on file as well. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we do have ZBA notices. ZBA notices appears that we have one in regards to, first one is for variance for Linda Machado for 116 Nesmith Street to construct a deck that encroaches into front yard dimensional requirements. It appears that she's on the side of Nesmith and Clitheroe Street, and she wants to put a little proposed deck on, off the side of her unit. She indicates in a narrative that units 2, 3, and 4 all have decks, but the way hers is set up, she's not allowed to have a deck. what happens is it'd go out, you only have 5.5 feet and be looking at the existing parking.
It's 5.5 to the
Parking area.
parking area in that spot, and the back end looks a little closer, might be a couple of feet.
Yeah.
And then it looks like it's
less than that,
down
yeah.
almost 20 feet to the street, so.
Mr. Chairman, I actually pulled in right where that spot is, and it doesn't even look like there's that much room there. I mean, this deck will be right over those cars that's made to look like it's more, you know, there's a greater distance there. When you look at the 19.5, if you gave the dimensions between, the distance between that and that parking spot, it's probably 2 feet.
2 feet at the
I mean,
back.
if you see the 5.5 at the bottom, looks like that 5.5 could be closer up top by the 19.5.
Yeah.
I mean, 12 deck, if she made it a little smaller, she might be, you know,
And
might
it-
work a little better.
And it's hard to believe they were issued the curb cut. I mean, you're turning right from Nesbit, right on the Cliff Row, and that's one big curb cut, this whole length here. It really is
All open.
In addition, I mean, these are condos. In order to put a deck there, you have to build it over the common area.
Right.
I don't know how they can do it.
That's right, yeah, over the common area.
I make a motion to recommend denial.
I'd second that, Mr. Chairman.
Motion made and second, all in favor, say aye.
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 Chair votes aye. Recommend denial. Moving along, we have 4 special permits for telecommunications. The first one is now, they're all by AT&T, and the first one is 115 River Place, and this is to add an additional 3 antennas to an existing 6 antenna array, from 7 to 6. So these, there's to put it on an existing antennas. These don't need site plan approval because these antennas have already been built. So all they need is,
The antennas,
I mean, you know, there's already a tower there, so they just add the antennas to the tower. If they didn't have the tower, then they have to come before us for site plan approval. Since the site plan approval has already been met on these, to begin with, they're only there for a special permit for the zoning board, whether they want to add the antennas to the existing.
And since we favor co-location of these additional antennas, I'd make a motion to recommend approval.
I second that.
Motion's made and second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Yes.
I just have a follow-up question on it, though, on any of these. Is there any follow-up, Aaron, on these telecommunications companies to make sure that they do what they say they're gonna do? I'm just concerned because it appears to me, and I think you can see it right here, it appears, I'm not sure of this, but that there are antennas on the side of a portion of the upper part of that building on River Place. And, you know, I mean, what are we endorsing here? Giving these people permission to just put them up where they want to, or?
They need to put them up where there's a plan with the package there that shows where the antennas are going. They need to put them there, and when they seek the building, they still need to seek a building permit. There is
With a drawing.
There is
with
going to be an
visuals.
inspection and drawing, yep, and everything, yeah, that is, it's put where it is, that there's not a blanket approval that it's just placed anywhere on the structure, whether it's an existing pole, tower, building, et cetera. It's
So there
supposed
is
to go to a
some
specific
enforcement there,
location.
just, you know,
Good question, no, good question.
just want to be sure of that.
Yeah, because,
But I don't have a problem with
I
voting
mean,
for it.
you know, we've been through this with the city bylaw and encourages, I mean, to tell them to build on the existing, the pole, I mean. And actually,
Yeah,
the ones that came before us, the applicant says, we can't say people can't come on that pole, because the city encourages under zoning. Right.
Right.
So therefore, you have less site plan approvals because they go on the co-location pole, so. If that matter had been approved for recommendation only. The next matter is for a special permit AT&T on 900 Chancellor Street, which is the rooftop of Cross Point. And this is to add 3 antennas to the existing AT&T array location on the rooftop as well.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we recommend approval of all of these co-location telecommunications petitions.
Okay?
Can we do that
What I'll do is
en
I'll
masse?
just read the other ones out, so if anybody's
that's all about
paying attention with us at home. So we have an approval for 900 Chancellor Street. Everybody's in favor of that, on recommendation?
Aye.
Aye. The next one is 141 Marginal Street, and that's to add 3 antennas. onto an existing array. We have a motion by Mr. Chairman to approve that as well. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The next one is for 137 Phoenix Ave. This is AT&T special permit as well. And this is to add a total of 3 antennas on a six-set existing AT&T array. We have a motion by Mr. Genova to approve that as well. All in favor, say aye. 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 So those are all the recommendations to go before the Zoning Board of Appeals for a public hearing on August 22nd, 2011.
I'm sorry, did anybody second that original
Yes.
motion? Sorry, thank you.
Second.
Okay, so those have all been approved. What we have is any further general comments, responses? I'll start with you, Aaron, if you don't mind.
I feel like I did have something else for, I can say that we did receive a site plan review application for the new Jeanne d'Arc bank on Merrimack Street. They're proposing a replacement to the Lowell Community Health Center that is currently, I think it's 585 Merrimack Street, so you should be receiving those shortly. There's one other thing that we have, I think, addressed a little bit in the past and have gotten away from it, in part because the priority is to make sure that the ZBA had it in place, but to update the planning board bylaws so that there's the process for peer review analysis is laid out and basically dictated through the bylaws, in which essentially, by doing so, gives the planning board a lot more authority in requiring peer review on a number of different types of studies for special permits. As we've done the research, it's not something that can be used for site plan review per se, but for any special permit, it would be available. So hopefully.
Special permit, not site plan, okay.
Correct, yeah. So hopefully we'll have a draft for your review in the next couple, hopefully the next meeting, but if not, the next couple of meetings. That's all I have for now.
Any reports from any board members?
Mr. Chairman, if I have more of a question, I just received the NEMCOG agenda, and there was, regarding conflict of interest, it said Ethics Commission requires that each council review the state's conflict of interest law on an annual basis and take the online training quiz every 2 years. Are we, just to Aaron, are we due to, I don't even know where we are on this.
It's getting up
did it
close to 2
initially.
years. I'm not aware of
I think we did it
the
like
planning board needing to do
January,
it.
was it?
Yeah, it's a couple of years ago. It might be coming up this January. I haven't received anything from the clerk's office. Usually the clerk's offices, but I will follow up on that. I will definitely do that.
As a matter of
Follow
fact,
up that.
after I did the one here for the city, I also had to do the same thing as a state employee. And they made
Well,
you read the whole thing and do it.
What prompted this is NEMCOG is comfortable with using whatever we went through for our municipalities.
Okay, so you forwarded that to them?
Exactly, that's what we did.
But if you don't have anything to forward to them,
Right, exactly.
Yeah, right.
mine expired. All
Prompted the question.
There you go.
right,
Take my word.
yeah. I mean, that's basically like, we told you so, now you're in trouble.
I'll check on that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, 'cause I remember last time, remember, we signed them and gave them to you, and I think they were dated, Aaron?
Yeah, we certainly have them. But it's getting close to 2 years if that's a requirement.
I think obviously it'd be something that the in-house will be looking at as well.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah, I think we would have heard, but, you know.
Any other further comments?
One other thing with the bylaws, the subdivision control regulation, have we updated? I mean, that's been in the works for years.
Quite a
I was
long
just
time.
curious if-
Yeah, there is a draft. We have received comments, and I should say that there has been a draft for, as you note, since George Proikos was here. I think he's the one who actually initiated them after the master plan update, and I'm sure the planning board had something to do with kicking that off. I've been, as time allows, been trying to refine that with the city engineer. And we're pretty close to actually having a draft that the board may be able to review. If you like, what I could do is put together what I have in a very rough draft form. And there's really not a lot that needs to be changed in terms of substance. It's just like the very detailed elements, engineering requirements for streets, utilities, et cetera, et cetera. So if you wish, I could kind of clean it up a little bit and get it out for your review in the next couple of weeks.
I would appreciate that. I mean, it's
Yeah,
something
that would
that
be interesting.
we've been talking about for, I remember with George, so that would.
Oh,
be
yeah,
good.
yeah.
At least
It's
to
been
get it
on,
in our
it's
hands to look
one of
at it.
those things that we'd really like to get done, because I think there are a number of potential subdivisions out there that could have worked a lot more smoothly if the regulations that are as drafted now were in place.
Thank you.
Any other further comments? If not, entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second?
Move to second, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Board votes yes, we adjourn. Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Thank you.